It began on one of those soft, golden afternoons, the kind that feel almost too still, where sunlight lingers in the air like a memory, and the house seems to breathe in silence. There was nothing remarkable about that day, at least not at first. I remember standing in the kitchen, gently stirring a cup of tea. The quiet clink of the spoon against the ceramic filled the air. Peaceful, calm, yet heavy, carrying the weight of words that hadn't been spoken. That's when he walked in. My stepson, Ethan. One hand pressed to his temple, his face pale and tired. "Do we have anything for headaches?" he asked, his voice low, polite, careful. I turned toward him, and for a moment our eyes met. There was something in his gaze. Not pain exactly, but a deep weariness. Confusion, maybe. Like someone quietly struggling with something they couldn't say. "Of course," I murmured, opening the medicine drawer. What I didn't know then was that this small, ordinary moment, a simple act of care, would set something in motion that none of us were prepared for. Not a scandal, not betrayal, but a secret long buried, ready to rise again. I reached for a bottle on the counter, assuming it was a painkiller, and handed it to him without thinking twice. He nodded, took it quietly, and thanked me. For a brief second, our fingers brushed, and I felt a sudden, strange shiver. Not emotion exactly, but intuition. As if my body sensed something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. Ethan walked away toward the living room. I stayed where I was, frozen, the faint rattle of the bottle echoing in my mind. Something didn't feel right. When I looked closer, when I looked at the label, my breath caught. It wasn't the usual headache tablet. It was a strong sleeping aid, the kind that could cause dizziness if taken at the wrong time. My heart began to race. It was a simple mistake, a small human error, yet in that instant it felt enormous. Panic surged through me as I hurried toward the living room. Ethan sat quietly on the couch, his head leaning against his hand. "Ethan, what did you just take?" I asked, my voice tight with urgency. He looked up, a little dazed. "The tablet you gave me," he said, confusion flickering across his face. My throat constricted. "It was the wrong one," I managed, my voice trembling. "You might feel a bit drowsy, but it'll pass." "I'm so sorry." He blinked slowly, his eyes heavy. "It's fine. Just feels strange." For a moment, the air between us went still, not because of attraction or tension, but worry. A deep, wordless fear of what one careless moment might bring. As the evening deepened, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept glancing at him from the kitchen. He looked pale, distant, lost somewhere in his thoughts. The golden afternoon light faded into a muted orange, and long shadows stretched across the room. Every tick of the clock grew louder. Every faint sound made my heart jump. Once he looked at me and forced a faint smile. "I'm okay, really," he murmured. But his eyes told a different story, one of unease, of something not quite right. I wanted to call his father, to tell him what had happened, but he was still at work, and a part of me didn't want to cause unnecessary alarm. Yet another voice whispered in my mind, "What if something happens?" So I stayed close, watching, listening, waiting. It wasn't about fear anymore. It had become something heavier, responsibility, and the kind of guilt that wouldn't let me rest. Later that night, Ethan was still on the couch, his head tilted back, eyes tracing the ceiling. The lamplight cast soft, shifting patterns across his face. "You should rest," I said quietly. "The medicine might still be in your system." He gave a faint smile. "I will. I just keep thinking about stuff." "What kind of stuff?" I asked gently. He paused for a moment. "Nothing important, just how small mistakes can change things." His words sank deeper than he realized. I sat down across from him, the silence between us thick but calm. It wasn't awkward. It was the quiet of two people lost in their own thoughts, each replaying the same moment from a different angle. I kept seeing it again and again in my mind. The way he had looked at me, confused but trusting. How easily he'd taken the tablet without hesitation. And how quickly what should have been a mother's instinct turned into guilt. It wasn't about the pill anymore. It was about what it had uncovered. How fragile we all were. How a single careless act could ripple through a family like a quiet storm. His father came home later that night. I told him only part of the truth. That Ethan had taken the wrong medicine by mistake, but he was fine now. He nodded, relieved, never seeing the unease behind my calm words. Long after the house had fallen silent, I sat alone in the dark. The dim glow from the hallway spilled across the floor like a faint reminder of everything that had happened. And in that stillness, I could still hear Ethan's voice echoing in my head. How small mistakes can change things.